Well, hi once again, everybody. Welcome into another awesome edition of the New Vegas Sand Trap right here on Facebook Live. And as usual, we're coming to you from the fantastic Rigel Studios right in the heart of the entertainment capital of the world. And everybody knows that's Las Vegas, Nevada. We're literally steps away from the world famous Las Vegas Strip. Beautiful day here right now, springtime. It's warm. It's getting to be my kind of weather. Got a little wind blowing sometimes, and the only thing, everybody here is walking around with allergies. This is allergy season here in Southern Nevada, in Las Vegas, and a lot of people, runny noses, runny eyes, sneezing, coughing, and that's only when they get up in the morning. So, but anyway, we're glad spring is here. I can't wait for summer. You know, I'm a hot weather guy, so it is what it is. The New Vegas Sand Trap, as you know, is brought to you by two great people, the Allergy Care Centers, right here in Las Vegas, where they have an amazing, simple 1, 2, 3 step to help get rid of your allergies, and also by the great people over at Swing U, the best damn golf app in the business. Download them at swingu.com. You get golf tips, you can get group lessons, private lessons, GPS, name it. swingu.com. Great people. We've got a wonderful, wonderful guest for you today, and I want to bring him up and tell you a little bit about our guest. A lot of you are going to remember him from when he was full-time on the PGA Tour, and that is Mr. Danny Edwards. Danny, so great to have you on the show. I appreciate you taking time out from your practice and spending some time with us on the show today.
Oh, Dennis, thank you. My pleasure.
I want to tell you about Danny. Went to Oklahoma State University on, guess what? A golf scholarship in 1969. Danny played in not only 1, 2, but 3 U.S. AMs while in college. He was a 3-time All-American while at Oklahoma State. Qualified for 2 majors as an amateur, the 1972 U.S. Open at one of my favorite tracks, Pebble Beach, and the 1973 Open Championship in favorite spot of mine too, in Troon, Scotland. He was also a member of the 1973 U.S. Walker Cup team, 5-time winner on the PGA Tour, and also won the 1981 Japanese Masters Championship. Played full-time on the PGA Tour, on the PGA Tour Champions from 2001 to 2009. And we're going to talk about it a little bit later in the show. Started a brand new venture for Danny that's very exciting called the Chipping Equation, and started that earlier in the year. And as I say, we'll get into that and have Danny explain it to you. So, Danny, let me start out and ask you this, my friend. When was the turning point in your great amateur career that made you want to play professional golf?
Oh, great question. You know, Dennis, there was always kind of an unwritten rule at Oklahoma State. If you were good enough to make the team there, you were probably good enough to play the PGA Tour or at least take a run at it. You know, I grew up in a town that didn't have a golf course. Nobody played golf. Nobody in my family ever played golf. So I didn't grow up around the tour or watching. I watched the tour. I watched players as I got into it. But when I got to college, and of course the coach didn't think I'd make the team till I was a junior, and then he said he'd give me a scholarship or a full scholarship, and I was low qualifier the first qualifying round as a freshman, and ended up playing every tournament for 4 years for Oklahoma State. So I got with it pretty quick and felt like I could compete. And then, of course, on the summers, we were out there with all my buddies, you know, which were Crenshaw and Kite and Bruce Litsky and Bill Rogers, Stadler, Craig, and all those guys. And so about probably my sophomore, junior year, I felt like I had a shot at it, and it's definitely what I wanted to do.
Yeah, give it a shot, and it worked out super for you. By the way, let me follow up and ask you, who was instrumental in your swing technique, in your swing philosophy, Danny? Who would you give a lot of credit to?
Well, the early years, Dennis, I didn't have anybody because, as I said, there was no golf in my hometown. I would drive over and play a course for 25 cents in Oklahoma City and go around and around, and I just didn't know anybody. But what I did is watch television, and I got in my mind a picture of a good golf swing watching the tour players, and I said, okay. Whenever I thought about something, I thought, okay, does this fit into that picture that I see on the television screen?
Yeah.
And then there was a great golf professional, Art Proctor from Oklahoma City, that lived in Edmond. And when the Kickingbird Golf Course finally opened after I'd already gone off to college, but I worked with Art a good bit. But honestly, I really didn't have much instruction. I just kind of, as Mr. Hogan said, dug it out of the ground and practiced my tail off. And if I saw a guy practice for an hour, I practiced for 2 hours, just because I knew that I wanted to be the best I could be.
Yeah, that's what it takes, and I give you a lot of credit for that, Danny. Danny, by the way, what did you major in at Oak State?
Well, believe it or not, there was a degree called Bachelor of University Studies. And, we missed a lot of school. So we had to be pretty close to our professors because we've missed 2 weeks at a time during the spring semester during the main part of the season.
Right.
And, you miss two weeks in a row in business calculus or whatever it is, and you're just lost. So mostly I liked business and I took some business classes, but I knew where I wanted to go after college, and that was the PGA Tour.
Yeah, well, the business thing worked out because we'll get into that a little bit later. And Danny he's not so much a closet entrepreneur. He is a full-blown entrepreneur. And we'll talk about that with all his business ventures. Danny, why do you think most amateurs don't devote the time they need to their short game like they should? Is it because they don't realize that having a really good short game is really the key to scoring in a golf round?
Well, Dennis, I think, and I don't want to run the manufacturers down, but when you watch television, you watch the commercials, all you really hear about are the great new clubs, the new drivers, the new irons, that they're supposed to be so great and all this, that, and the other. Do you ever see a commercial about chipping or pitching? Rarely, if any at all. So really the visibility for our game from that perspective of getting better or instruction or whatever is all about the full swing. And we all know that from whatever research, I think the great Dr. Bob Rotella said, your game starts when you get a wedge in your hand. That's from there in is really how you score. And you have to learn this game. You can't buy a game in golf, Dennis. You can't just go out and buy clubs. You have to earn a game. You have to learn how to play the game.
Totally agree.
Even Tiger last weekend said, well, I was down for a lot of time, but I didn't forget how to play the game.
Right.
Most amateurs, in my opinion, they are never really exposed to how you really score in the game of golf. And in my opinion, that takes place up around the greens.
Yeah, I agree. And that reminds me of a great story, and probably a friend of yours, Danny, the great Ken Venturia. I had Ken on a lot. I loved interviewing him. I loved calling him the night before because we would talk for an hour. He would really give me some inside baseball. And I'll never forget one of the things he told me, Danny. He'd have a lot of friends that would call him and say, Kenny, can I bring my son down for you to work with? And you know what he would say, Danny? He would say, sure. Do you want me to give him lessons, or do you want me to really teach him how to play the game? And there's a big difference, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. There's a huge difference. Golf is a game of strategy. It's a game of skill. It's a game of planning and strategizing. What's the right shot to play? What should I do here based on my ability and my skills? And so it is. It's a thinking man's game, and but that's a fun part of it. It's not a bad part of it at all. And it's so exciting when you think about, okay, this is a way to play the hole. I'm going to do this, and you pull it off, and you just get a real sense of satisfaction by that.
Danny, can you be a good player having terrific swing mechanics without having any kind of a mental game?
Oh, I don't think you can get very far, Dennis, because you're going to go out. I mean, you and I know everybody that's out there on the tour today on the driving range looks like they could win the golf tournament, right?
Right.
Every single player. So there's something that goes on between the ears that determine how high and how successful a player is going to get. And yes, you have to have good technique, no question about it. But it takes a lot of heart. It takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of hard work when there are distractions around, and a tremendous focus on getting better all the time.
Right.
So it's not easy. Everybody has good mechanics now. You got to have a lot more than that to be successful on the tour.
Yeah, that's very true. That's well said. Let me ask you this before we take our first short break, Danny. People always talk about having a good pre-shot routine with full shots, of course. I'm wondering if you subscribe any to a preconceived short game practice routine.
Well, yes. I mean, you always want to put yourself, when you practice, at least under some kind of pressure to recognize that that's how you're going to feel when you're on the golf course. Even if you're playing with just a couple of buddies for a couple of bucks, you're still going to feel differently there than you do out practicing by yourself if you're just banging balls. So yes, you want to have some type of a little pressure, playing games with yourselves. Okay, how many of these chips can I get inside of 2 feet? Can I get 5 in a row inside 2 feet? Whatever the game is, play a game with yourself and put a little pressure on yourself, and that'll only help you.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Danny, stay with us. We're going to take a short break, and when we leave you, we're going to bring you our weekly Golfer's Minute by great guy Dr. Nick Molinaro. Go to commercial, and we'll be back with our very special guest, PGA Tour winner, Mr. Danny Edwards. Stay with us. We're back with you right after this.
Welcome to the Golfer's Mental Minute. Vision takes up approximately 50% of the brain. When putting, make sure that after you've looked at the hole and you bring your attention back to the back of the ball, that you're over the ball for 2 seconds. No less than 2 seconds and no more than 3. The difference in putts made of 3 foot from 1.5 to 2 seconds over the ball is very significant. It takes approximately 2 seconds for your brain to reestablish itself after looking at the target. Continue to use your breathing, looking at the back of the ball, and make sure that you bring your attention from the flag back to the back of the ball and over it for 2 seconds before you pull the trigger. I'm Dr. Nick Molinaro for the new Vegas Center.
Did you know that over half our population suffers from allergies? There's a new, incredible way to treat allergies that don't involve shots, sprays, pills, or drops. All you do is brush your teeth. This new revolutionary treatment for allergies is only offered by Allergy Care Centers. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. You simply go to their office and speak to one of their doctors about any allergy history you may have. Then a simple finger stick is done with a few drops of blood placed on your patient card. It is then sent out to their laboratory where it's analyzed. This state-of-the-art test analyzes for 180 potential allergens. After consultation, a prescription is sent to their pharmacy where a specialized serum is mixed with toothpaste, and you simply start to brush your allergies away. It's amazing. So stop suffering with your allergies. This is great for patients of all ages, especially kids. Call Allergy Centers at 702-331-5230.
The Metaping tape by PowerFlux is a non-allergenic, water-resistant tape that stretches and moves with your body so it can be applied just about anywhere you need relief with muscle soreness, muscle swelling, and inflammation. Combine that with PowerFlex Recovery Cream, you have an unbeatable combination to rapidly get you back on the course. The Recovery Cream has anti-inflammatory ingredients and is non-greasy, non-oily, and enhances your range of motion. Go online to PowerFlex.com to order and learn more about these amazing products. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the New Vegas Strand Trap right here on Facebook Live. I'm Dennis Silvers, having a wonderful conversation with our special guest, Mr. Danny Edwards. And Danny, let me divert just a little bit. And I don't know how much of the LPGA Tour you watch, but I always like to ask this. Do you think the American players are ever going to dominate on the Women's Tour again? Because I don't.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I do like to watch. There's some of the girls just have beautiful golf swings, don't they? They're great looking golf swings. But, you know, to me, there's one thing that's really big, Dennis, and that is these girls that come from overseas. And I know some of them probably come here and almost grow up here and go to college here and all. But, you know, that is a huge change in their life for them and for their families to be able to be in a country where they can use their skills and make a lot of money and make wonderful contacts and it's truly for those girls from foreign countries. It is a way to get to the top, to get out of a difficult situation maybe in their country. Whereas the girls here, you know, they get to live in the most wonderful country in the world and play golf on spectacular golf courses. Yep. And, you know, honestly, I'm just not sure they quite have the motivation maybe that the foreign girls have.
I think you hit the nail right on the head. I just don't think they have the fire in the belly. Sure, everybody wants to win, but you see the Asian players, the European gals, they work hard, they want it. Mm-hmm. You know, they do what they need to do, you know, to get across the finish line. So I agree with you. Mm-hmm. We spoke a little bit before the show, quite honestly, about when you played full-time on the PGA Tour Champions. And I mentioned to you, I think that tour is going to come to an end in the future for a number of reasons. What's your feeling on that, Danny?
Well, I think that the field changes and, you know, you don't have a long period now as you go on a Champions Tour Champions. But, you know, the aspect of it that is so fantastic, Dennis, is the ability to raise money for these wonderful charities in local communities and nationwide. And for the guys, the amateurs who support those events that are so good, to get to play with a guy that maybe they watched for 20 or 30 years of their career growing up. So, you know, you're on the regular Tour Pro-Am. These are the superstars. They're a little bit, you know, they're nice guys, but they're not probably as approachable. Plus, you haven't watched them for very long.
Correct.
The Champions Tour guys you've grown up with, you've watched for all these years, you've agonized when they have their difficulties. So there's a real connection there. And then the charity thing, to me, I hope it stays around for years and years and continues to provide a vehicle for the guys that play and to support these charities. Yeah,
we're gonna find out. Danny, when you were on tour and all of a sudden your game went south, which I know rarely happened, playing around the golf, what did you do to get it back in the house, so to speak?
Well, you go back to fundamentals. You try to go back and get in close touch with what you did when you played well, not only with the mechanics of your swing, but in your thought process as well. You probably go back and maybe see either a player or a coach if you had one. I have a dear friend that's up in Tampa. His name is Tom Dusen, who actually, when he finished Oklahoma State, caddied for me my first year on the PGA Tour. And I don't know how in the world he put up with me, but he did for a whole year. But he is just he's a wonderful human being and knows my game like the back of my hand. So I go up and see Tom and say, "What the heck am I doing here, Tom? Help me out."
Yeah, no, they're tour caddies are just invaluable. Let me divert and ask you a real quick question. You played with a lot of great players. Can you name one or two players that you thought were great to play with, number one, and terrific ball strikers?
Well, there were certainly quite a few. Tom Weisskopf was a great ball striker. Jack was a fantastic ball striker. Gary Player was really a fun guy to play with. Although my recollection, as far as enjoying playing with the guys, is that they were all business. I mean, we're out there trying to make a living, trying to make a name for ourselves,
Yep.
and it was serious business out there. I mean, it certainly was for me because I came from nowhere, and so I was very focused, and I look back honestly, Dennis, sometimes, and I think I probably should have smelled the roses a little bit more along the way, but so many of the guys were good ball strikers.
Yeah.
Through that era, but still, everybody missed shots. Golf is a game of misses,
Sure.
and they had to be good in those other areas also.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. What, and we'll get into the short game, and I want to get into the chipping equation. But what are your thoughts, Danny, about, you hear it on TV, you see it in instruction videos and so on and so forth, about players using hybrids, for instance, off the green instead of some type of wedge?
Well, I think fundamentally it makes sense because it puts the ball on the ground where you have the most control of it. So I think it's a good alternative, certainly better than the lofted wedges, the lob wedges, it does the same thing, of course, as less lofted irons, but it's a good alternative.
Okay. Do you practice that yourself, Danny, with a hybrid? I've tried it, and it's not for everybody. I just can't get comfortable with it. But do you utilize that in your own game?
I really don't, Dennis. The equation is based on using two less lofted clubs and a couple of formulas, and I can do everything that I need to do from all different kinds of shots around the green with those two less lofted clubs, much more consistently and much more predictably.
Okay. All right. Before we take our second short break, Danny, I want to ask you this. What's the commonality of problem people come to you with for help? And of course, I'm talking about the short game. What's the commonality, the major problem with weekend players and their short game?
Well, Dennis, it's inconsistency. Everybody pulls off a good shot now and then, but the inconsistency of what drives us kind of nutty with this game. So it's trying to show them that there's a technique and there is a system that allows you to take the guesswork out of this part of the game. And that's part of what their inconsistency is driven by, is that there's no formula, there's no system to what they do. So many times I would ask my amateurs in the pro-ams, okay, what are you going to do here with this chip shot? And they go, well, what do you mean? I said, well, what club are you going to use? Well, my favorite club is a 58. And I said, okay, well, where are you going to land the ball? And they said, well, right up in there. I said, well, what do you mean, right there? I said, why did you pick that spot there? And they look at me like I'm from Mars, and they said, well, that just looks like the place to land it. Well, that's not a very good way to determine how to play a shot that is absolutely critical to scoring in this game.
Right.
So that's the problem. Inconsistency. So you've got to have a system. You've got to have a formula, because you can't afford to.
Okay. All right. We might have lost Danny. We're going to reach out to him again. So we will step away and take our break. We'll start with another great golf tip by Gary Gilchrist from Swing U. Do some other commercials. We'll come back with our great guest, Danny Edwards. So stick around. We're back with you after this.
For those of you who want a challenge when you're practicing on your putting green at home, I call this the 2-hole 3-ball drill. What you want to do is hit 3 putts to a hole in front of you and then if you make one, you want to make it coming back. If you miss, you have to start again. So once you make it going one way, you have to go to the other side and putt back. This will give you a feeling of reading the greens a lot better, working on your distance control, and also being able to putt under pressure. Because you might make one going to the front flag, now you have to putt back. You might putt the first two and miss, and the last one you have to go through your routine and try and make it. This can take you a bit of time. You can also start with flags close to each other, 9 feet. This is like 21 feet apart. But what I love about this, each putt I can learn from. So I can really stand here, aim at this hole, take my dress position, hit the putt, and really analyze how the ball rolls and breaks. So this has a lot of break to it. So now I'm going to aim further right. So again, I go through my routine, take a look, hit this putt. Little soft. Now the next one, same thing. So you go back and through, making sure you start making these putts. This will build confidence over time. And also, you're going to get a feel for distance control. So work on the 2-hole drill is going to make a big difference in building confidence in your putting stroke. Go home and practice these drills and send us your progress so we can give you a development plan that will help your game for the rest of your life.
Look, if you play golf, chances are you've made a fairly sizable investment buying your golf clubs. So why take a chance on having your clubs damaged or even broken on the way to your next round of golf? Here's the perfect solution, known as the Golf Cradle. Using the Golf Cradle elevates the open end of your golf bag and suspends it off the floor of your truck or SUV and locks it in place. The Golf Cradle prevents the chance of damaging your club as a result of sudden stops, potholes, or swerving. Its weighted base and rigid bottom ensure the Golf Cradle stays put. Simply place your golf bag on the Golf Cradle and the protection arms automatically close down to secure your bag. Then simply tighten the straps and lock it in place. Simple as making a tap-in birdie putt. They have an awesome device like the Golf Cradle for under $40 to protect hundreds and maybe thousands of golf equipment is a no-brainer. Check them out and order at golfcradle.com. Don't wait, your clubs will love you for it. golfcradle.com. Oh, did I mention what a great gift this would be for the golfer in your life? golfcradle.com.
Let's face it, if you're a golfer, you have lots of choices. Choices in equipment, choices in golf balls, and choices in the golf course you play. But if you're a golfer interested in joining a private golf club, well, you really but have only one choice, and that's the Tournament Players Club in Summerlin. Why TPC Summerlin? Simple. One of the most established private clubs practicing exceptional member services in Southern Nevada. TPC Summerlin has earned the reputation of providing its members with an award-winning golf course, home to the Shriners Hospital Tour event, a tour-quality practice facility, and an award-winning golf shop. Call TPC Summerlin at 702-256-0111.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to a little bit more of the New Vegas Sand Trap right here on Facebook Live. We've got the great guy, Danny Edwards, who's hanging with us here on the New Vegas Sand Trap. And Danny, I want to ask you, since the chipping equation has evolved, have you heard from or had any reaction from other so-called short game gurus? You know, guys like Dave Pills, Stan Utley, Mac O'Grady, on and on and on?
No, I haven't heard from any of those fellas yet. I, of course, know those guys. I went to a couple of Dave Pell schools back when I was playing, and you know, those guys do a great job. They're working with players on their swings and their full swings. But honestly, I haven't heard anything like the chipping equation from them. You know, it's all guesswork with everybody, and that just really does not produce consistent, predictable results. And that's what drove me to really decide to go ahead and make my video and start marketing it and working with people because I saw such inconsistency and no plans and their frustration.
Well, you just answered my next question, Danny, and that was, how did you become interested? How did you become involved in starting the chipping equation?
Well, Dennis, I learned a fundamental formula back when I started college at Oklahoma State University, 50 years ago. And that was get the ball on the ground, rolling like a putt as soon as you can, because you have the most control over the ball. It's horizontal momentum versus vertical momentum with a lob wedge. It just stands to reason. You watch the tour players, and every now and then, in fact, oftentimes they mess shots up. Tiger messes them up. Patrick Reed messes them up. Justin Thomas messes them up.
Sure.
John Rahms messes them up. And so what you have here is you have a situation where a lofted club is simply ill-suited to consistently put a quality strike on the ball.
Right.
And the TrackMan research has just now proven that out. We're very excited about that. Probably the first chipping test that's ever been done by TrackMan, and it concluded that and gave the statistics behind the fact that the ball just does not stay on the face with a lob wedge. It skids and rolls up the face,
Yep.
and that's why the contact is inconsistent. So playing the ball on the ground allows the player to select the landing spot and predict how the ball is going to roll out and play it with a much higher consistency of results.
Much more predictable, and that's what I really like about it. Danny, the biggest change in the game you've seen since you played on the PGA Tour?
Well, of course, it's length and power. I mean, in my day, I had a great Tony Penna driver that I used for 12 years on the PGA Tour. But you better hit that ball in the middle of the club or it was going to go off into the weeds, and the balls weren't very good. A lot of balls, they come off shaped like a D with a flat side and starts curving out there, and you thought you made a pretty good swing. It's completely different with this length today. The guys, the power they have, those old clubs were hard to hit, and we did pretty good with them. But the biggest thing, and in training, I mean, Dennis, I was told to stay out of the gym when I went to Oklahoma State. Do not go to the gym and work out. It's just a completely different world today from what we played, and the equipment is so much better. The sports psychology, the nutrition, everything is so much better. I'm sure it is in most every sport, but the power is a huge difference today.
Yeah, it fascinates me today, Danny. And in Las Vegas at TPC Summerlin, we host the Shriners Hospitals for Children Open every year out here. And I do a lot of interviews out there and gotten to know a lot of these guys. But it amazes me, Danny, the entourage of people that some of these guys have as far as a swing coach and, like you say, a club guy, a nutritionist, maybe their mental coach comes out. It's unbelievable. And you didn't really have that back in the day, did you, Danny?
Oh my gosh, of course not. They'd probably laughed us off the golf course if we showed up with our chef or with our sports psychologist, in those days. I mean, you went out there and you figured it out yourself. Maybe your dad helped you. Your dad was a pro. I mean, I didn't have any of that, so I just was all eyes and ears and just tried to figure it out. It's incredible. I mean, today, everything that happens and flying around in their jets and with their chef out there and their entourage of 10 or 12 people or even more. I've heard some of them have over 20 guys.
Wow.
From their agents and their staff and all.
Oh my gosh.
It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. That is incredible. Danny, in your opinion, what's the biggest obstacle keeping weekend recreational players from getting better? Because in my opinion, Danny, it just ain't happening.
You're exactly right. And that's what agonized me for years playing the tour, watching the amateurs. The only real place, in my opinion, where, a fellow that's 50 or 60 or 70 or even younger than that is going to be able to improve is up around the greens. If you're a 10 handicap golfer, you're going to miss half the greens. If you're a 20 handicap golfer, you're going to miss all but maybe 4 or 5. So the biggest opportunity that you have in your game is to get those balls close enough to the hole to make a high percentage of the putts when you're chipping. And that's the whole foundation of the equation. it's got to be an equation. It's got to be a formula. Guessing, we know, doesn't work. You're right. The scores don't change year after year, even though they're getting $300 and $400 drivers and new sets of irons. There's no correlation, Dennis, between driving the ball another 10 or 20 yards and shooting a lower score.
I couldn't agree more.
There's no correlation between getting a new set of irons or a new putter and taking 3 or 4 or 5 putts or strokes off your score. But chipping, you can do that because it doesn't take great athleticism. It doesn't take great hand-eye coordination. It doesn't take tremendous strength to learn to be a great chipper. You're only talking about 50, 60 feet away. And if you have a system where you can accurately predict where the ball needs to land and then make some modifications based on the terrain and what obstacles you may have, uphill, downhill, you can learn. I've taught 80-year-old ladies, I've taught 80-year-old men, I've taught 6 and 8-year-old kids, and they hit shots after 5 or 10 minutes and look up at me and say, Danny, I've never hit a shot like that. I've never chipped a ball up that by the hole. That was easy. I wanted to make this easier, Dennis. The game of golf is hard. We need to make it easier for people to play good and shoot better scores and have more fun.
I could not agree with you, Danny. How do all of our viewers and listeners, if they're interested, and I would highly recommend you check the chipping equation out if you want to shoot better scores, where do they go to, Danny? How do they find you? How do they purchase this thing?
Dennis, thank you. My website is DannyEdwardsGolf.com. I'm really happy with the site. It's very informative. I've got a number of videos on there, a chat room, testimonials from some of the people that have gotten back in touch. And the whole gamut is about 35 minutes, and it goes through the very simple process of determining how to pick your landing spot and how to make some adjustments for uphills and downhills and the different terrain and different speeds at your golf course. And it sets you off on a path. Now, we have to practice a little bit. You know, this game practice, we have to practice a little bit. But the more you practice, the more you're going to learn, and you're going to have a system that you will be able to take with you, Dennis, the rest of your days playing golf, and you're going to get better and better and shoot a lot better scores.
That's great. Now, so people know, Danny, when they subscribe, when they purchase this, do they get DVDs or are they video lessons? How does this work?
You know, it's just right on my website. The link is right there. When you purchase the video, it comes to your computer. You've got the link, and you can. It's yours then, so you can you can refer back to it, which you'll need to refer back because we always get off in a couple weeks. We go back. We're not doing the same thing, so it's a wonderful reference to be able to go back to. And keep refreshing this very, very important part of your game. Yeah.
Maybe I could talk you into coming out to Vegas and doing a clinic somewhere, Danny, and opening this thing up. What do you say?
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to. There's some great golf out there. I got some good friends out there, and I love to do that because I love to see people enjoy and have some more success at this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, Danny, thank you so much for all of your great time. Great information. Good luck with the chipping equation. And we would certainly like to have you back sooner than later because I really, really enjoyed it.
Great, Dennis. Thanks. Great show and really enjoyed listening with you.
Thanks. Thanks very much. All right, Danny Edwards, everybody. Great guy. All right, stepping away real quick to take a short break. We'll come back and we'll finish up the show for you. Stay with us. If you're like me and play golf, let's face it, you want to get better, right? Getting better at golf means taking lessons, and these days you have a whole lot to choose from when it comes to instruction. Or do you? It seems everyone and their brother teaches golf. That's why you need to know who and why you're investing your time and money with. If you really want to improve as a player, the choice is simple. PGA Tour instructor Mike Malaska, long recognized as one of the top instructors in the country, is helping players on every level, every day. The online learning center is offered by MalaskaGolf.com. Mike's common sense approach to learning will help you overcome the issues you face on the course every time you play. Simply put, in order to play better golf, you need to understand it. Named National PGA Teacher of the Year, Top 100 Teacher of the Year for over 20 years running, Worldwide Director of the Nicklaus Golf Academies, well, you get the picture. Mike is awesome. If you're serious about improving your game, get started now. Check out MalaskaGolf.com and see for yourself what this program will do for you and your game. MalaskaGolf.com.
What's up, everyone? I'm Ryan Rustan.
And I'm Josh Kelly, and we're on the course with Swing U, the top-rated GPS, scorecard, and game improvement app.
That's right, guys. Get distances to greens, hazards, live wind speed and elevation adjustments, even shot tracking and club recommendations. You can track your scores, stats, and handicaps for free.
Check out our massive library of lessons and drills from top 25 teachers, or get one-on-one training from your personal Swing U golf coach.
So join over 4 million golfers
And download the free Swing U app today.
All right, before we leave you, everybody, want to give you some information. We'd love to hear from you with any comments, criticisms, suggestions. If you'd like to see a certain guest on the show, we obviously try our best. So our email is simply golfgurulv@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, thenewvegassandtrap.com. Check us out. Check our sponsors out. Get us on Instagram. Get us on Facebook. And if you go to Facebook, a couple of likes would be great as well. Also on Twitter. So we'd love to hear from you again. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for Danny Edwards. I'm Dennis Silvers, wishing you nothing but fairways and greens. Thanks for checking us out. We'll be back here, same place, same time next week. So get out and play some golf. So long, everybody.